Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number 164. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out past episodes of Lightbulb Moment, and we also are a podcast, so check it out. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. I'm also CEO and founder of Qnity. A lightbulb moment is a moment of sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. And with this forum, we hope we can provide a light bulb moment that you self-discover or discover through our great guest or some other format, because we know you can't start a fire without a spark. So hopefully you'll get a spark today. At Qnity, we're here to take you from what's confusing, overwhelming, and complicated to a simpler and clearer path towards prosperity. And to prosper, remember to gain a high ROI on the three currencies we have in life, which is attention, time, and money. And thanks for spending your precious time with us, whether you're listening live, the podcast, or the YouTube. We love hearing from you. We actually just heard from someone last week that wanted to be a guest. That's going to be an upcoming episode. So do reach out if you want to be a guest, you have an idea of being a guest, or just have a light bulb moment of your own, put it in the chat or send us an email. We love it. Today, our guest is going to be Rodrigo Himiob, who is advisor and the managing director of Generation 6. We're going to be talking about family business today. What a great topic. Great topic. Check out past episodes of Lightbulb Moments. Our last episode was with Sudhir Konaru, who's the founder and CEO of Qnity. It was part of our tech series. And there was also that session was particularly rich with data coming from their 2023 benchmark study, which gave some sort-needed benchmarks in some areas that I think are really interesting and relevant. So great episode. He also spoke about AI as well as his journey to being founder and CEO of Qnity. The Lightbulb Moments is proudly sponsored by Lightheart Sanders, the CPA firm. They're a legacy sponsor, as well as Green Circle and Forest. Thanks for these three partners organizations who help make this possible. Upcoming dates, we have two workshops coming up very soon here. They will be in Bloomington, Minnesota, very close to the airport. We have our profit workshop on Monday, September 9th, followed up by our growth workshop on Tuesday, September 10th. Candice Gliato will be leading both sessions. However, with the profit program, I will be co-leading that segment. So super excited. It's not too late to sign up. And we only do these periodically throughout the year. And then also on October 7th, we have a succession masterclass. Good segue into the topic we're going to get into today. And we only do this a couple times a year. We did one in February. We have one in October. So you definitely want to check that out. Also, check out recent episodes of Money O2, the podcast by Erin. She's got some amazing guests. And then also, I want to remind people that we did formally open our next big study this year, which is a P&L benchmark study. You can go to our website to learn a little bit more about it. I'll also make sure someone puts it in the chat. We are looking for very high participation. Profitability is a very important metric. A lot of people are talking about profitability always, but there's been a lack of a comprehensive industry-wide study on this topic for many, many years. And this will provide valuable benchmarks and best practices, allow you to compare your performance against industry standards, as well as identify opportunities for improvement. The participation is quite simple and easy. There's a very short survey. It should take you under 20 minutes, well under 20 minutes. And then you simply upload your 2023 P&L in Excel to a site, to an email that goes directly to the independent CPA firm, which is Lightheart Sanders. And they will be the ones that will help include you in the study. And by participating, you're not only going to help us create better and more relevant and timely benchmarks, a topic we think is really important, but you also get a free scorecard and an assessment and a consult to really give you meaning to the scorecard. Again, very easy to participate. You can go to the webpage and also put in the chat a link to the webpage. Shout out to our sponsors. We got several really great sponsors on this, including Lightheart Sanders, who's also serving in the dual role as being an analyst, as well as Wella, Aveda Boulevard, Zanotti, Neil, and 2 to 10. My light bulb moment this week is very much on topic, and it really has to do with the subject of family business and how it relates to several different things. Family business is such an important topic, and there's an enormous number of businesses, including some very large ones that might surprise you, that are family businesses. And we're all affected by family business, whether we're part of a family business, whether we're a family member. It's a topic that is very near and dear to me, especially as I get the privilege of working people on their succession plan. In many cases, family matters come into it. And then we also at Qnity are a family business. So we're going to have a rich conversation. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right to my guest, and I'm going to bring Rodrigo to the camera and the mic. Good morning, Rodrigo. How are you today?
Good morning, Tom. Great to see you.
And you are down in Houston.
I am. I am. We got light.
Well, your name, I mentioned you earlier. We had a few minutes to have a little prep call. We've already prepped because we know each other, et cetera. But the conversation of generators has come up, and you're the one, when I had dinner with you in July, talked about the importance of having generators down in Houston and how you were pretty well tapped into yours for some time.
Yep.
So we had our power out, and I got to listen to our neighbor's generator for good chunk of the day yesterday. So anyway, how are things down in Houston for you since June and July when you had some yard damage, I believe?
Yeah, we did. Good memory. We had some yard damage and we were without power for 8 days approximately. So if you can imagine being in this wonderful swamp for a few days without power, well, here we are now. So we got electricity and we got a light, our light bulb moment shining.
There you go. Listen, I'm a lightweight. 24 hours into it and I was whining. So anyway, I have an appreciation for you. But my big appreciation is really for you to be a guest. So thank you for joining us today, Rodrigo.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. I'm thrilled to be here.
A little bit about you. So you are a board ready. You might have to unpack what that means in a little bit. Board ready family business advisor. You help solve complex business problems, help goals of a family business with advocacy, challenges with valuation, succession planning, expansion, and governance. So these are just a few of the things that you do.
Yeah, that's right. I by education, I'm an engineer by education. So it also compiles a little bit of that structural mindset into some of the items that are a little bit softer. Um, yeah, third generation family business owner myself, so been 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 through some of these successions that you and I have had the opportunity to share some conversations around.
Conversations with that, which I've enjoyed. So the path for our listeners, I'm not going to give like our full history here, but the path to meeting with Rodrigo started many, many years ago when we had a partnership with a family business center at Loyola University in Chicago, by virtue of them being part of a 2 to 10 conference. Along the way, I got to know, and Aaron actually went to Loyola University. Along the way, I got to know one of the lead members of that community, Ann Smart. And in recent years, actually earlier this year, I had reached out to Ann to see about some family business advisory support. And then I actually ran into her in an event. And then she said that she had left Loyola University and she now works at Generation 6, which you are the managing director of. Tell
Yeah,
us about
that's right.
Generation 6.
So we're a family business advising firm. We deal mostly with we deal with the governance side, so board of directors, either establishing or finding sound board of direction. The educational portion of for family business owners. We also deal with family offices and how they interact with the family, the executives, etc. And then there's the family consultation, if you will. And the family consultation is more of that area. The best way I can allude it to is that area where it's you're not you can consult with a CPA, you can consult with an attorney, you can consult with your therapist, but you're not really in any of those spaces. Um, so it's a little bit of everything. And it's helping families transitions, families communicate. And then there's the coaching side, which we do with some of the executives around businesses.
And Aaron and I actually had the privilege to do a little bit of work with you, and we loved it. It was great. I think any family business, I don't know why it took Aaron and I so long to actually think, it'd be a good idea to talk to someone that's, family business. We have a very normal relationship, compared to a lot of very abnormal family business relationships, which, by the way, Ann Smart said something to me. This was over 10 years ago. And I never forgot her. She said it to our audience. She said, what appears to be abnormal to many people is actually very normal in a family business. So she sort of normalized a lot of things that feel angsty, whatever, and said, that kind of goes with the territory. It doesn't give permission for bad behavior or anything like that, but what it does is it acknowledges and appreciates the fact that there is a family dynamic that's unavoidable in a family business. That was a big insight for me.
Yeah, that's right. And Anne is really good at normalizing a lot of that and taking care of some of that anxiety, because that's typically what it all boils down to is the anxiety of how it's all going to develop. Uh, there are 1,000 different types of issues that can appear. It's just the combination of them that differ. But there's a handful, I guess, even if it's 1,000, it's only a handful of issues that you can pick from. It's how you combine them that make it a little bit different for the families.
Let's come back to that handful of issues in a moment here. And let's deal with the definition. I think you had a great definition of what is a family business. You want to share that?
Yeah, so family businesses in our definition is typically any business where the family has direct controls the direction or has control of the business and where it's going to go. Uh, there's also the thought that you have to have 100% ownership of the business in order for it to be a family business. That's not necessarily the case in our mind. Typically, that's just where the family can control the direction. I can give you a few examples, but that's in broad stroke how we would define it.
And you mentioned some very large companies that are family businesses that I was
Yeah.
surprised. What are some of those? Some of the,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, Johnson and Johnson is a really good example of a family business. They control the direction of where the business goes. Uh, there is the Wall Street Journal is another family business. I believe I believe they control a really small percentage of the entire business, but they control the direction of which the business goes through. Walmart, another family business. Those are major family businesses that we come across day in and day out. And like so, I believe the data are showing it's over 50% of US businesses would fall into that percentage. It's a little higher. Interestingly enough, the US actually has one of the lower percentages. If you go to Europe, for example, it's a higher percentage. You go to Latin America, it's even higher than that.
I have a couple things that bubbled up for me. One of the things that inspired us to have Loyola and Ann at a 2 to 10 conference several years ago was we had a finding in a survey and found that 92% of these businesses that were part of our conference that had between 2 and 10 locations met our definition of a family business. That's an enormous percent.
Mhm.
The relevance is in a lot of companies that I was surprised to find out says, oh, I didn't know that they were part of your business because sometimes they're behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, they're behind the scenes, and then there's always I don't want to say stigma, but it's almost the thought that because you're a family-owned business, you're a small business, and you're really a small business. You can be point to that point we just spoke about a few of them. It's incredible, and I would 100% believe it. You said that number to me, and I'm like, that's a high number, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And I'm actually happy that those numbers are like that because that means that private equity and some of the venture capitalists haven't been going after some of those businesses because I'm passionate about family business. If you haven't been able to tell, um, so yeah, there is a number of firms that are privately held and family owned that want to continue through that process. I want to succeed to the next generation.
Let me ask you this question. So Estee Lauder is a public company, but the family's very involved, and I don't expect you to know the answer about Estee Lauder, but I guess they're probably a family business. The main executive team is family members, or is that because they're a public company, they wouldn't be considered a family business?
Yeah, no, they once again, I'll go back to the other three that I mentioned. All three of them are publicly traded,
There you
but
go.
the
Yeah.
family has the direction, controls the direction of where the business is going. It's just a way to find money, right? It's going public. It's one of the many ways, and one of the many reasons. There are other reasons to go public, but one of them is you get a cash influx.
So I shared with you some experiences that I've had in the area of succession planning, including some recent ones where and there's maybe three of them that had a very similar dynamic. And I'll describe it to you, and I'm going to generalize a little bit here, but essentially an owner that really is on a path to working on her or his succession plan. And in the subject of identifying who the successor is, in three cases, their ideal candidate was a family member. However, they had either ruled out that person without discussing it with that person because A, they either thought it might be an imposition to bring it up, B, felt that they wouldn't be interested, C, wasn't really sure they wanted this person to go through what they went through as a small business owner. And it was surprising to me because the omission of it to me would be the bigger risk. Like, can you imagine that you're a family member and that your mother or your mother-in-law or whoever is working on a succession plan and has already ruled you out in many cases with good intents? It's super, I mean, like three occasions recently. Comments about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. A few thoughts go through my head without knowing any details. So, it's kind of a brainstorming here. Uh, there's a protective instinct that happens a lot of the times. Like, well, I struggle through this. There were times where I don't know. I'm just going to use this as an example. It was difficult to put food on the table, so I don't want my next of kin to have to go through this. Um, but I boil it all down to has there been communication regarding this? What are your hopes and dreams going forward? Um, and and you and I have spoken about this, and it's part of making sure that you offer that up, that's even an option to your next generation. Hey, you don't have to work in this business, but here's an opportunity. Or hey, you and the other whole of that is families that say you have to work for this business or you don't work for this, you are not going to work for this business. Neither of those poles are going to work for you. So make sure you offer it as an opportunity. Most family businesses will do well when the family is involved in the operations of it. there's a point in time in which either it gets too big where you can't have a family member in every poll, but in every seat. But the opportunity to work in the family business is always recommended because it creates and strengthens that cohesion to that family and to that family business.
You mentioned two poles, like two extremes. So one, if I've got this right, one would be no one would really be a good fit to be in this business, no one in the family, or you and one person in particular. And the other is that the other extreme is, hey, you need to be, you know, and those are really the two polar opposite ends as you described it, right?
Yeah, that's right. So an example, a friend of mine, actually, his family has within their charter is that no family member will work for any of the operating businesses.
Hmm. Hmm.
That kind of isolates family from family business, right? Now they have ownership and they do work really hard at educating the ownership of the business because you don't have to be in the operations of the business. You can be an educated owner. You can be a board member if you need a board for your business. You can be any of those and still be engaged in the family business. It's that engagement, it's that passion, that cohesion for that business that is going to keep you going and it's going to keep you going through the generations.
The thing that I've learned through the years is that there is an enormous number of ways to kind of cocktail a relationship in terms of a family business. And we tend to bundle and or stereotype, but there's a tremendous amount of customization in terms of role definition. And that's the beauty of a market like ours, where there's legal flexibility, there's ownership flexibility, there's all different types of flexibility. So I love with really starting with what everybody's dreams are, what the best case is.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned, there are advantages to family business, and however, dysfunction's been glamorized very visibly in recent years with the series Succession. And you get tired of hearing about that, but it's the glamorization of what goes wrong with family business as opposed to all the behind the scenes multi-generation businesses that have operated with harmony. But you tend to hear about the ones that are dysfunctional. I know you're dying to say something.
Oh no, I mean, I enjoyed Succession. I thought as a drama, it's great. It's disturbing in all senses, but it was a good drama. It's like everything that can go wrong is there. It's that's the nightmare. But yeah, it's it, there's that there's that fear. I think it's fear of something going wrong that sometimes keeps us from taking that next step or handing it over. Um, yeah, I think that there's that issue. I don't think it's I think most of those cases are solvable, and when they're not, then that's probably because it's too far gone. So one advice I would have to any family business is as much as you can, be proactive in getting ready for your next generation.
When we had dinner, you, of course, are rightfully very protective of client privilege and never even came close to crossing any lines. But you did certainly share with me that you have seen a lot of the things that are tough situations, in a family business. Substance abuse, complete incompetence, mental health. I can only imagine the things that you would see, because bringing in someone like you is a big commitment, and many times there might be something seriously wrong. So you've seen some tough situations, have you?
Yeah, I mean, you see tough situations, and you have to adapt to those situations. And part of the issue is that when you do your initial conversation, your initial intake, you don't necessarily know that those are going to come up. Um, some families are very open about it, and some families, um, you know, may hold it. And in some instances, the families don't even know that these situations are happening. And then it's when you start digging and peeling back the proverbial onion that you start seeing that there's something going on, and there's got to be a lot of care, a lot of um, passion for what you do, and a lot of carefulness to how you handle it. In some cases, you have to refer to specialists, of course, because there's certain areas that are that you have to be very careful in how you handle to, and specialist being a therapist of some sort or a psychiatrist or whatever it is. And there have been a handful. I'm glad to say I haven't had to do it often, but sometimes you do have to refer out.
Yeah. I think in the case of an existing or future family business, what I think is really important, and one of the things that Aaron and I have practiced is clear boundaries. Like for example, in our house, we have a no work zone,
Mm.
so we don't bring it into the kitchen, and if we're in the middle of a family gathering and the two of us need to speak, we always retreat to a separate room so people don't have to listen. Now, it reminds me of a mother and daughter, and we're working primarily with the daughter, and the mother was an expert in the same business and worked for the daughter, and they had no boundaries. In particular, the mother had no boundaries. So, big families, and they'd get together on a Sunday, and the mother and the daughter would be talking about work all the time. Now, the husbands hated it. The rest of the family probably hated it too. And I think one just simple adjustment, like creating boundaries in terms of when you will and will not talk about work in front of other family members, I think is huge. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, boundaries are super important. Boundaries, I mean, they can be as simple as I communicate best via fill in the blank. Those are some of the simple boundaries. Don't call me after 9 p.m. Um, whatever those boundaries are, keeping boundaries. And remember, those are your boundaries and those are yours to hold. Meaning, if I have my boundaries, I can't expect people to hold my boundaries. I have to hold them. The moment I start breaking through those boundaries, people are going to say, well, Rodrigo doesn't really have those boundaries that he's saying. So I'm just going to call him at 11 o'clock p.m. and just keep calling him because he doesn't hold his own boundaries. So it's up for me to hold. People will people will get it and will understand, but you have to hold your own boundaries.
With succession planning, what would you say to a business owner that is actively working on a succession plan to really step way back in the next 3 years? And she has a couple of great key employees that really probably should be part of the next generation of ownership, but then has a daughter or a son in the teens, 17, 18, 19, or 20 years old, still pretty early in the career and still several years really being at a point. What do you do then? I mean, you got an interested kid, barely, maybe still in high school, not a lot of life experience. Do you hold the business for that person? Do you transition the business to the key employees and leave some space for the daughter or the son to come in? What do you do?
So it sounds to me that the next of kin is, or the the offspring, if you will, it sounds to me that they have been exposed to the business. So that would be one of my initial questions would be, have they been exposed? Do
Yes.
they even understand the business? So it sounds to me that's been checked
Yes.
and they have a connection to the business. Bringing them in is important. Now, as far as the employees, that's something that you have to be careful because if that has been promised to those employees and you don't follow through, the likelihood is you're going to end up with them leaving and possibly them becoming your competition. I say that, but they can also be a partner in your business. There are other methods in which you can use. You can do ghost shares, phantom shares. I'm sorry. You can do phantom shares and use those phantom shares to so that they have some level of profit sharing, if you will. You can do different types of structuring to where they can continue to do the management. They can even run the business and this next generation becomes the owner, but they have to be um, going back to one of my previous comments, they have to be an educated owner, understand what the business does, understand what they want to do. That to me is where the secret sauce is understanding the business. And it sounds like there's going to be some work through that. Um, it's also understanding what the future is looking like for this young person and what they're going to be doing. Because if they want to really operate it and they want to be in it, that's awesome. If they're looking at it from a revenue standpoint, that's going to be a tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah, I have no heartburn for all of them becoming owners. Like, step one is to lock in the key employees, make them owners. The current owner wants to step back more, and then just be transparent with the key employees that coming down the road is a family member, but there's room for all of them, you know. Okay, another question I have for you. What about a situation where you've got two, say three kids, and one kid's in the business and it has been for a while, dedicated to the industry and the business, is on a path towards ownership. And then you have two other kids that have no interest in being in the business. Um, and however, from an estate planning standpoint, the current owner has two other offspring. And the way I kind of like to bucket it is you separate sort of the asset of business ownership as a family asset and how that would pass on to the next generation due to death or whatever. And then you have the operating member. How do you unpack all of that?
Yeah, I think I agree with where you were going with that. 100%. We typically well, we always say to the family members, you should benchmark whatever salaries you're paying. And I'm going there first because if you have owner, an operating owner is getting a salary, and that salary should be equivalent to whatever you would get if you were to hire someone from the outside. That's ideal. That's not to say that most family businesses don't do that, but that's ideal. The other side is you're an owner. So you're that one person is having to wear two hats. One hat is your owner hat, and the other hat is your operator, business executive hat. Those are your two hats. Whatever time comes, that's where it's going to be. One of the challenges there is I think we focused on the one person has to wear the two hats. The other challenge comes from the other two members of that family that are standing on the other side saying, well, my sibling, who's an operator, is getting compensated from business. Why am I not being compensated from business? Well, you don't have a job in the business. Do you want to have a job in the business? And oh, by the way, if the business is able to distribute profits or dividends, call it distribution, whatever that is, then they're getting something from the business. But then, that's part of that education that you and I work through. Either yourself from the financial and that side, myself more from the family business focus. That's what has to come through. And that communication amongst the siblings has to come through as well.
There's a lot of small business owners that would benefit from a very clear understanding of the difference between the head of being an owner and the head of being an operator, employee and owner. And it applies not just to succession plan and all that, but it applies to how you look at your profit and loss statement, how you're compensated, all that kind of stuff. So it's a worthy lesson that goes beyond just succession planning. Um, so let me see here. Um, what else are you compelled to talk about as it relates to family business that are particular topics that you think are relevant to our audience?
Yeah, family businesses are unique in that there's a lot of emotions mixed in with the ownership and mixed in with the operations. One of the biggest things is that you have to learn to view those emotions and understand the other's emotion. Because as one of our members likes to say, families know how to press where to press the buttons because they installed them. So so you have to be aware of that. And you have to be mindful that they're going to be pressing your buttons. And you're probably going to press their buttons. But ultimately, have those conversations, have that communication, and know where your shared goals, your shared visions. You touched on this earlier, Tom. Know where those are. Work towards them. And with those boundaries that you were talking about, those boundaries are important because that folks are going to know where your boundaries, if they know where your boundaries are, they know where the no-go zone is. Let's not talk about that because I'm not going to go there. Or let's talk about that because that's our shared vision. That's our shared passion for making the salon grow bigger, having 10 locations versus five, whatever those shared goals are. Those are huge. You need to have those conversations. You need to be going through that. And you need to understand that as you go forward, you need to continue your educational path and what not only in your trade, but also in what it means to be an owner. Because ultimately, one last thought, ultimately, if you want to hold it in the business, that's wonderful. I'm all for that. But at some point, someone's going to come knocking at the door, and you need to understand your business. You need to understand your financials because someone's going to make an offer. And if you don't do that, then they may be lowballing and they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You made me think of something, in fact, something that came up 2 nights ago, and something we teach in our succession masterclass, and a couple of different things. And this was applied to someone that is in the middle of some negotiations to sell her business to a key employee. And a couple things that I've learned, and I passed this on, and one is that these are certain traps. One is that communication will be inconsistent. It will be confusing, it will be delayed, and it will be frustrating in a negotiation of a sale of a business. So expect communication to be choppy, disappointing, long wait periods, sometimes because waiting for attorneys, whatever. Number two is it will be emotional. Not sure when it's going to happen. Sometimes it has to do with price negotiations and feeling that you're being devalued, whatever. So communication and emotion are part of the process. And if you can normalize that, if you can normalize that it's the nature of the beast. These are very emotional areas, and where communication, there's a lot of unknowns. It's going to be much easier to take it to the finish line in a succession negotiation. Any
Yeah.
comments about that?
No, I 100% agree with you. It's gonna all those are gonna come in, and all those are going to be true. And most likely, you said devaluing. Uh, I think one of the most likely ones is that if it's an offer from somebody that you've known for a while, you're gonna feel like, were we really truly that well known to each other, or am I being taken advantage? So, yes, I mean, all of that is important. And I will add, Tom, that it's part of either that sale or that transition to the next generation. And something I failed to mention is be ready for those instances. Do a little bit of what if scenarios. What if somebody comes in with an offer here? What if they come in with an offer here? Um, what if I get run over by the proverbial bus? All of those things are, you need to start scenario planning, because you need to be ready for that. Have all, listen to whatever advice you're being given, having a will, having a, if you need a trust, have a trust. If you need, all of those things need to start taking shape as you grow in size, grow in wealth.
Well, I've been dying to get you on as a guest, and here it happened. And let's everybody give Rodrigo a virtual round of applause. Give him a little shout out in the chat there. And then you should have forthcoming your formal inductee symbol to a member of our brain trust with the $1 million light bulb. So that should be coming to you shortly. Watch for it in the mail.
Thank you, Tom. It's been awesome, and I look forward to many more conversations with you. And yeah, anybody need any support, let me know, and I'm happy to talk through it.
Awesome. Perfect. And I think we, Generation 6, and I don't know if we put it in the chat or not. I think we probably did. Otherwise, you're pretty easy to find in LinkedIn and all of that. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
was going to say LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. Otherwise, I mean, even my email address is there anyway, just the same.
and by the way, thanks for contacting me when you're in the Twin Cities. And this is a shout out to all the other listeners here. If you're going to be in the Twin Cities, let me know if you're going to be in town, and if I can join you for coffee, a drink, or whatever, let me know. Don't just pass through without a shout out. So thank you for letting me know you're in town, because we had an opportunity, had just a delightful dinner together. So thank you for
That's
that.
right. Well, no, and thank you for making the time and sharing some of your incredible baseball knowledge too.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. And once again, appreciate what a great guest we had today, and appreciate the Qnity team who has to deal with certain aspects of a family business themselves. So, all right, everybody, thanks much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.